and 5 of us, juniors at a state school in central Pennsylvania, had heard the same rumor for 2 years. The old Merivale estate, 20 minutes outside town, had lights on at night. No one lived there. The place had been condemned since a fire in the 90s gutted half the east wing, but people swore they'd seen a glow moving room to room, like a flashlight, like someone pacing. We should have left it as a rumor. Instead, on a Friday night with a case of beer and too much confidence, we drove out to see for ourselves. The house sat back from the road behind a collapsed iron fence. 3 stories of black windows and peeling paint. My friend Derek killed the headlights before we turned in, which felt smart at the time and terrifying in hindsight. We were choosing not to be seen. "There," said Priya, pointing at a second-floor window. A faint light, orange like a lantern, drifted past the glass and vanished. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but we all felt the pull. We got out. The front door was already open. Not broken, open, like someone had left in a hurry or was expecting company. Inside smelled like wet insulation and old smoke. We split into pairs, because that's what you do in a horror movie you don't realize you're in. Derek and Priya went upstairs. Me and my friend Cole stayed on the ground floor, moving through a dining room where the wallpaper hung off in long strips like shed skin. That's when we heard Priya laugh, sharp, nervous, followed by footsteps on the stairs, fast. She and Derek came down, pale. "There's a mattress up there," Derek said. "Like a maid mattress. Blankets folded." We should have left then. We didn't. We played a stupid game instead. Hide and seek, because someone thought it would be funny to prove the house wasn't scary. Cole counted in the foyer. The rest of us scattered. I hid in a closet under the main staircase, knees to my chest, door cracked an inch. I heard Cole's footsteps pass twice, then a third time, slower. He stopped right outside my door. "Found you," he whispered. Except it wasn't Cole's voice. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The footsteps continued down the hall, and a minute later, I heard Cole calling my name from the other side of the house, genuinely looking. When we regrouped, shaking in the foyer, Priya told us something that made my stomach drop. While hiding behind a piano, she'd heard someone murmur, almost affectionately. "Not that one. She's the funny one. Save her for later." We ran. We didn't discuss it. We didn't debate it. We just ran for the car, and Derek floored it down the gravel drive with the headlights finally on. Here's the part that still keeps me up. 3 days later, Cole got a message on Instagram from an account with no posts, no followers, and no profile picture. It was one word. Tag. We reported it. The account was deleted within the hour. Local police said squatters sometimes used the estate, and that we were lucky nothing worse happened. Maybe that's all it was. Some drifter who thought it was funny to mess with trespassing college kids. But none of us have gone back, and none of us play hide and seek anymore. Five of us rented a cabin outside Cold Fork, a speck of a town in the Adirondacks, for a long weekend after finals. It was the kind of place with 1 bar of cell signal, a wraparound porch, and a listing that specifically bragged about its peace and total privacy. The host had installed a single outdoor security camera above the front door, more of a doorbell cam, really, which felt reassuring, being that far from anywhere. The first night was perfect. Bonfire, too much whiskey, somebody's bad guitar playing. We went to bed around 1 a.m. I woke up around 3 to a knock. Not on the front door, on the window of the bedroom I was sharing with my friend Marisol. 3 slow knocks, deliberate, like knuckles on glass. "Probably a branch," Marisol mumbled. There was no tree near that window. We both knew it. We heard it again 10 minutes later, except now it was on the kitchen window, on the opposite side of the cabin. Too far to have been the same person walking calmly around, unless they'd sprinted. By morning, everyone had a story. Jake said something knocked on the bathroom window while he was brushing his teeth. Priya, different Priya, don't worry about it, swore she saw a shadow cross the curtain in the living room around 4 a.m. We pulled up the doorbell camera footage first thing, half joking, expecting nothing. We got less than nothing. The footage from 2:47 a.m. to 4:12 a.m. was there, time-stamped correctly, motion activated like it should be. But every clip showed the porch empty. Then, for about 4 seconds, around 3:15, the frame filled with static-like distortion, like something had gotten too close to the lens before clearing again to an empty porch. "That's normal," Jake said, though nobody had asked him. "Bugs on the lens, moths, whatever." We wanted to believe that. The second night, we kept the lights on. Around 2 a.m., the knocking came again. This time on Jake's window, then 30 seconds later on the window of the room where Marisol and I were now both awake, both staring at the glass, watching a curtain that didn't move, but somehow felt watched from the other side. Then it stopped. Not gradually, instantly, like someone had gotten what they came for. The next morning we found something on the back porch, away from the camera's range entirely. A neat row of small stones lined up against the door, largest to smallest, like a child had arranged them, or like someone had left them on purpose. We packed up 6 hours early. Nobody said much on the drive home. Weeks later, out of morbid curiosity, Jake messaged the property host, asking if other guests had ever complained about noises. The host's response was almost too calm. He said the camera had issues with static sometimes, and that a previous renter had also mentioned windows being knocked on. But that when he checked his own copy of the footage from that stay, the static happened at the exact same timestamp, 3:15 a.m. He said he'd never been able to explain it and had stopped trying. We never went back to Cold Fork, and I still don't know what's worse, that something outside knew exactly when the camera couldn't see it, or that it had done this before, on a night none of us were even there. Beth, Omar, Trevor, and me graduated from a university in Arizona and decided to drive from Flagstaff to the Pacific coast that same night, high on freedom and bad decisions. Around 1 a.m., somewhere on a 2-lane stretch of highway in the Mojave, our headlights caught a man walking on the shoulder. No car in sight. No town for 30 miles either direction. Trevor slowed down, out of instinct more than kindness. "We're not stopping," Beth said immediately. But the man didn't wave us down, didn't even turn around, and something about that made it worse, not better. Omar rolled down his window as we crept alongside him. "Hey man, you good? Need a ride?" The man turned his head slowly. Mid-30s maybe, dust on his jeans, a green duffel bag over one shoulder. "Heading to Barstow," he said. Flat. No relief in his voice, just 3 words. Against our better judgment, we let him in. He sat beside me in the back, bag on his lap, hands folded on top of it like he was restraining himself from something. The conversation died fast. For nearly 40 minutes he said almost nothing, staring out the window, while the 4 of us exchanged glances in the rearview mirror that all meant the same thing. This was a mistake. At one point, Trevor asked his name. "David," he said, after a pause just a beat too long to be natural. We dropped him at a gas station outside Barstow, engine running the whole time, nobody getting out. He climbed out, shut the door without a word, and walked toward the fluorescent lights without looking back once. We didn't talk about it much until we stopped for gas ourselves the next morning. Beth typed "Man missing Mojave Desert" into her phone half as a joke, and went pale. A local news article, 3 days old, was about a man named David Ferris, reported missing near Barstow, after his car was found abandoned off Route 15 with a flat tire and blood on the driver's seat. The photo was him. The same green duffel bag was listed among his missing belongings. The article said he'd last been seen 3 days before we picked him up. We called the number listed for the family. His sister answered. When we described the man, the dust, the bag, the flat, unnatural way he spoke, she went quiet for a long moment. "That's my brother's bag," she finally said. "He never goes anywhere without it. But David doesn't talk. He hasn't spoken a full sentence since an accident 4 years ago left him in a wheelchair." David Ferris was found 9 days later, north of where he'd disappeared. To this day, none of us know who or what rode with us to Barstow, sat beside me for 40 silent minutes, and vanished into a gas station whose own surveillance log never recorded anyone matching his description walking in.